This movie is 18 years old and I still have not yet reviewed it. Well, the time has come because I'm really excited to review it because this is an epic movie that came out back in the year 2000 and I'm very proud to review it for y'all. Also, please stay in tune after the review because after this movie review, I will have a very fun story for y'all about this movie and how it impacted me, especially to the place where I visited on my t-shirt. Let's do this. And my final question is, are you not entertained? Gladiator is a 2000 epic historical drama directed by Ridley Scott, and it stars Russell Crowe, Connie Nielsen, Joaquin Phoenix, Richard Harris, Oliver Reed, Djimon Honsou, and so many other talented actors in this movie. And this movie takes place at the peak of the Roman Empire in the ancient times. And this movie is about a Roman general named Maximus Decimus Meridius and his conquest to become the Emperor of Rome. And he becomes the general of the Roman Empire, and he leads a successful drive against the Germanic tribes and the Germanic war between the Roman Empire and the tribes of Germania. But he later is given an offer by the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius to become the next Emperor of Rome, but unfortunately his son Commodus becomes very jealous and decides to kill Marcus Aurelius in order to become the emperor himself, because Commodus feels like, since he is the heir of Marcus Aurelius, that it's about time that he becomes the emperor instead of Maximus and his accomplishments. And later Commodus decides to ban Maximus out of the Roman Empire, and eventually Maximus has to become a gladiator in order to fight for his freedom. And as Maximus goes on his journey to become a gladiator, he realizes that the path to the gladiator is not very easy, and it's very hard because you're not just training on how to fight, you're training on how to survive the gladiator arena and how not to get yourself killed and how to survive all chaos that in the hell that breaks loose within the Colosseum. And once he becomes the biggest gladiator of all, he gets fame, he gets recognized about defying the Roman Empire, and he also builds a bond between the slaves as well. And now you got yourself a really, really interesting and entertaining movie, and this movie excels in a lot of things. Now, based on film, there is a definition of an epic for a movie to be epic, and there are some movies that can be epic and can still define the word epic, and based on what I explained there, Gladiator is the true definition of what it means to be epic and is an epic movie, and this movie is epic in so many ways. It's epic, epic, epic in almost every detail crafted into this movie. I mean, I cannot believe that this epic movie really exists. I mean, everything from the writing, the characters, the acting, the choreography, the cinematography, the sets, the cinematography, the music, the settings. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, it's really hard to really dive into how amazingly and beautifully crafted this movie is. And Ridley Scott did an amazing job in crafting Gladiator, and I'm incredibly excited and enthusiastic to dive into my passionate love for the movie Gladiator. It's really hard for me to really critique Gladiator because almost everything about this movie just excels in every way. And yes, I know it's easy to describe your passionate love for a movie as big as Gladiator, but Gladiator is just incredibly big that there's just so many things to talk about, and that's the reason why I'm honestly having a bit of a hard time describing my love and passion, and especially of how amazingly fantastic this movie is. And that's the thing I'd like to start off with, is that this movie is almost 100% perfect, and this goes from the direction of Ridley Scott and how he maneuvered everything. And Ridley Scott is just the amazing genius behind this movie, because this movie is directed almost incredibly well because of his ideas and his ways of planning on how to make this movie. And that's the thing. One of the really coolest and best things about the movie Gladiator is the direction by Ridley Scott, and this movie is directed almost 100% perfection. And it's just amazing with the way how he maneuvered the entire film, as he was able to make the audience feel as if they were in the environment of ancient Rome. Almost everything was also filmed in camera in terms of the battle scenes, the combat scenes, the or scenes just depicting everyday life in ancient Rome, and even the scenes where he directed the actors to speak about the Roman Senate and how Roman politics were. And it's just mind blowing that he was able to make history feel as if it was happening right now. And of course, history happens every single day, but you feel as if ancient Rome is your own reality. And he really does that because of everything being within the camera. Not only is this film constructed in a way that's very realistic about ancient Rome, it also goes to the way how Ridley Scott maneuvered the battle scenes within the arena and the battle scenes within Germania and almost every single battle scene, because it shows how brutal it was for ancient Romans and how brutal the fight scenes were, or just the fights in the arena. And this movie does not treat the Gladiator arena as a nice place. It's full of complete devastation and just complete traumatizing moments of just people getting killed. And it's honestly, it's honestly really scary with the way how Ridley Scott directed it. And one of the things that makes this movie one of his most dangerous movies that he has made is one particular fight scene that he directed. And it has to be the tiger fight where Russell Crowe or Maximus has to fight this gladiator, and they actually put real-life Bengal tigers within the fight. And for a film like Gladiator, people could have used CGI'd animals, but this movie decided to go the hard way because it's trying to aim for realistic history. And once I saw real-life Bengal tigers, within the fight, I was just like, whoa, they actually went that way? They used real tigers, because when I saw the behind-the-scenes featurette of Gladiator, they trained Bengal tigers to be within this movie, and I was amazed by how, they trained these tigers. And when these tigers were actually gonna fight in this movie, they didn't just act like as if they were angry. They were actually angry. And all props to Ridley Scott for really going for a realistic feel, and especially with the way how he maneuvered the stunts. I mean, my goodness. The other great thing about this movie is the acting, and the acting in this movie is just incredibly awesome. I really love Russell Crowe because I believe this is his signature movie. This is a movie that, really boosted Russell Crowe because of his performance as Maximus Decimus Meridius. And it's also the movie that got him the Oscar in the 2001 Oscars for the 2000 movies. And I really love the way how he was devoted to the role of Maximus and how he trained. I mean, Russell Crowe had to go all places, and he had to be incredibly disciplined about himself on how does a Roman general act and how does a Roman gladiator act. And that's another thing that I loved about this movie, is how everyone puts themselves in their roles. And another actor I really enjoyed seeing was Joaquin Phoenix as Commodus, and he was incredibly entertaining to watch. And whenever Commodus was on screen, he nailed it. And he was very calming and scary as a villain. And once Joaquin Phoenix decides to go to his evil mode, that's when he becomes even more entertaining and even more of a talent to see. And every time I see Joaquin Phoenix, I'm like, this guy's an actor. He is amazing. And I love the way how he portrayed emotion to a villain who had motivation, and it's just really awesome that Joaquin Phoenix was devoted to that as well. Another thing I'd really love to critique is something I normally don't talk about in my movie reviews, and it's something that I should really be more aware of in terms of critiquing a movie, and this is something that I really have to talk about, and it's the costuming, because the costuming is just incredibly fascinating. I mean, once you start seeing almost every single costume in terms of a gladiator in the arena, or a Roman senator, or a general, or even a Roman emperor, you see how much detail goes into this costume. And the way how the costume designers design all these costumes, you really do feel more of a Roman citizen, as I stated with the direction. And this movie doesn't just make you a Roman through direction, also through the costume, because once you see different types of costume portrayed on screen or just put on the actors, it really does make it feel more like it's an ancient society. And that's something that is just unbelievable for a movie to do, is the costuming. The costuming plays a big role into this movie, and I just could not believe how big of a role it became. And costuming, of course, does reflect each character for this movie, and that's what it does. The costuming reflects each and every character of this movie. Last but not least, this is the last thing I really need to critique in my review of Gladiator, and it's the most important thing I really love to talk about, and there is a reason why I left it last on my list. And not only does this movie have great cinematography, great direction, great acting, great choreography, but this movie has one of the most emotional music soundtracks I have ever listened to, and the music is a reason why this movie has a living and breathing soul. And that's all thanks to Hans Zimmer himself, because once I start listening to this song, to the music by Hans Zimmer, I'm incredibly emotional because I could not believe how much dedication Hans Zimmer put into the music of Gladiator. And we all know that Hans Zimmer is great for, movies like The Lion King and Pirates of the Caribbean, but honestly, in my opinion, this is my favorite piece. This is my favorite musical piece from Hans Zimmer in this movie, because you can tell that he was able to allow the music to become the motifs for almost everything that reflects ancient Roman society. And you can go from one scene to another and the music will change, but it plays a humongous and important part from beginning to finish. And you can have one scene that reflects, the battle scenes, and then, of course, the famous battle soundtrack from Hans Zimmer and Gladiator. And then later you can have another scene where the emperors are arriving to Rome, and then this music will get into this very epic type of theme. And you can tell that with the heavy brass use of like the horns and the trumpets, you feel as if, these are royals, or these are people in the high power of ancient Rome. And then he also does a lot of other cultures of music, especially in the scenes where they go to Roman provinces, and those were amazing. But I also love the vocals that he used, reflecting, Maximus's life and how he wants to go back home even as a general. And honestly, Hans Zimmer is basically just, he's the reason why this movie has a soul. He gave life to this movie. He gave emotion to this movie. And it's not just acting and cinematography. And it just proves to me why music is so important to a movie, because it can reflect, the emotions of what a scene is trying to portray or convey or reflect. And that's why I love Hans Zimmer so much. And that's the reason why Hans Zimmer is last on this list, because he's incredibly special to this review. In conclusion, Gladiator is just an excellent film. And almost everything that I stated in this entire review is just 100% perfection from Ridley Scott. And that's what I really love about Gladiator. It's incredibly special, and I'd love to give this movie a Spartacus, okay, let me stop for a second. Spartatacular 10 out of 10. So the review is done, and here comes the special story. And the special story is that last year over the summer, in summer 2017, I had a chance to visit Rome, and Rome was just one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. And going to the Colosseum, of where they actually had the battles in ancient history in ancient Rome, was a really cool experience that really changed me. And once I had the experience to go, it was just amazing. And I'd love to show with you, I'd love to show y'all my pictures of when I was in Rome. These were the pictures of me from Rome, and I have to say, it really meant a lot to me going to the Colosseum, and it was incredibly fun. I had a wonderful time there, and it was an incredible honor to be in the Colosseum, of where they probably filmed Gladiator probably thousands of years ago, and I just wanted to share these pictures with y'all, and it's really an honor to be there, and especially to have gone into that trip last year. In future videos, I may want to try to make travel posts of where I've been to Europe, but I'm also here to say that just going to that Colosseum, as I've stated several times, was just something that meant the entire world to me, because Gladiator is a movie that I grew up loving, and once I actually got the chance to really see the Colosseum, it's something that changed my life, and it made me incredibly happy for in a long time. And just seeing the actual Colosseum just changed my life forever, and it's an experience I'm very thankful for, because of how I was able to make sure that Gladiator was really a reality, and it was. And I'm very thankful for almost everything about this, and I'd like to say thank you very much for watching this movie review. I'm sorry this is very long because I really love Gladiator, and please be sure to stay tuned for more videos, and be sure to subscribe. Are you not entertained?